Hi, I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson, and welcome to episode 32 of The Savvy Psychologist. I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. We'll use the best of psychology to help you be happy, healthy, and most importantly, yourself. So officially, Alzheimer's disease is the sixth most common cause of death among Americans. But a 2014 study in the journal Neurology re-examined cause of death entries on death certificates and medical records, which helped generate those rankings. And researchers found that the immediate cause of death, like pneumonia, was often listed instead of the underlying cause, like Alzheimer's. The researchers estimated that the true numbers of Alzheimer's-related deaths are much closer to the first and second ranked causes, heart disease and cancer. And if the numbers play out, the true impact of Alzheimer's could be 5 or 6 times the current estimate. So before we get into tips for prevention, first, what is Alzheimer's disease? So Alzheimer's is a kind of dementia. Dementia is a family of brain disorders that cause deterioration of memory, decline in intellectual capacity, changes in personality, and loss of social skills, all of which are severe enough to rob someone of his or her independence. And Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. It's responsible for about 60% of all dementia cases. And Alzheimer's disease is progressive, which means it worsens as it advances. So the course of the illness is generally a slow, steady slide in functioning as brain cells degenerate. The next most common dementia is vascular dementia, which accounts for about 20% of all dementia cases. But the exact numbers are murky because it's possible that vascular changes can also cause Alzheimer's. However, vascular dementia is caused by damage to the network of blood vessels, the vasculature within the brain, often from a series of small strokes due to blood clots or burst blood vessels. As the vascular system becomes damaged, blood can't reach the brain cells and they die. So if Alzheimer's is a slide, vascular dementia is a downward staircase with plateaus of symptoms followed by sudden declines. And while there are temporary treatments, there's no cure for Alzheimer's or vascular dementia. Therefore, prevention is vital. And you can't control all the factors that feed into whether or not you'll develop dementia, your genetics or your age, for example, but you do get to choose how you live your life. And while there's no magic bullet, there are many things you can do to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's and other dementias. To that end, here are 4 tips for keeping your brain healthy. Tip number 1, take care of your heart and your brain will follow. According to a 2014 study from the University of Cambridge, up to 1/3 of all cases of Alzheimer's are significantly influenced by lifestyle and are therefore preventable. So use this rule of thumb. Anything good for your heart is also good for your brain. Another 2014 study followed almost 18,000 Americans for 4 years and found that those with the worst cardiac health were most likely to develop cognitive impairment over the course of the study. Furthermore, cardiac-related conditions like high blood pressure and high cholesterol can increase your risk of vascular dementia. So take care of your heart and your brain will benefit. How to do this? The biggest is exercise, which stimulates nerve growth and increases the number of small blood vessels in the brain. But getting enough sleep, eating a heart-healthy diet, and reducing negative stress are key as well. Tip number 2, quit smoking and drink in moderation or not at all. Yes, these are also lifestyle changes, but they're so important they deserve their own tip. In a 2008 study of people over 65, those who drank more than 2 alcoholic drinks a day developed Alzheimer's almost 5 years earlier than those who drank less. And those who smoked a pack a day or more got it almost 2.5 years earlier. Mix heavy smoking and drinking, and on average, folks got Alzheimer's 6 to 7 years earlier than they would have otherwise. Tip number 3, train your brain, but not necessarily by staring at a screen. In the late 1990s, almost 3,000 older adults participated in a study where they attended 10 brain training classes of around an hour each. In the classes, they learned one of 3 things: memory strategies, how to solve problems that follow patterns, or skills to locate visual information quickly, like looking at phone numbers or reacting to traffic. The participants, whose average age was 74 during the classes, not only improved their cognitive skills during the training, but when the researchers tested them again 10 years later, The problem-solving and quick reaction groups continued to show improvements. Only the memory group did not. So, brain training is beneficial, and in some areas, it even has long-term effects. But it's important not to misrepresent brain training as a miracle cure. Indeed, a 2013 meta-analysis, a study of studies, found that training your memory, for example, does indeed help your memory, but the effects don't generalize to other skills. In other words, playing Angry Birds will make you better at Angry Birds, but not better at calculus. Regardless, engaging your brain with the world is never a bad thing, and you don't have to rely on an app or slog through puzzles as if you were taking medicine. But if you like apps and puzzles, more power to you and your cortex. But if Sudoku's not your style, you could take a continuing education course, try an activity you've never tried before, learn a new language, attend concerts, lectures, or plays, or simply read. Even driving a different route home from the grocery store will make those neurons fire. Tip number 4. Ditch the cynicism. A 2014 study found that individuals high in cynical distrust, defined as the belief that others are selfish and manipulative, were more likely to develop dementia than those low in cynical distrust. So rein in your judgment and give others the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to be a Pollyanna, but to all you curmudgeons and killjoys, you may wish to consider wringing out that wet blanket. To wrap up, remember that only a portion of what contributes to Alzheimer's is controllable. You could do everything, quote, right, and it still might not prevent the disease. But think of it this way. The things you can't control, like genetics, set your start point, and your lifestyle choices, like whether or not you smoke, how often you exercise, or how often you roll your eyes and mutter, yeah, right, can increase or decrease your risk of getting dementia, or delay or hasten its onset. Finally, it's important to say that if someone you love has dementia, don't blame the victim. Instead, offer support, love, and patience. If you take care of someone with dementia, my hat is off to you. Be sure to seek support for yourself, too. Again, we don't have total control over whether or not dementia develops, but taking care of your brain now can only improve your quality of life today as well as in the future. If you learned something from this episode, let me know by subscribing to the podcast, liking on Facebook, adding me to your Google Plus circles, or emailing a link to someone important in your life. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Ellen Hendrickson. That is all for this week. Next week, we'll look at why gratitude is so good for you and how to cultivate it. A transcript of the podcast and references for the studies I mentioned are always available on quickanddirtytips.com/savvy-psychologist. And of course, I always have to say the Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and doesn't substitute for psychiatric care or psychotherapy by a licensed professional. Thanks for listening, and see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.